integrity is what you do when nobody's around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when nobody's around and you're going to get away with it, you could do all kinds of stuff. So the essence of that is, are you the same person by yourself as you are around other people, or when nobody's watching, will you try to get away with something?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good roundabout definition of personal integrity, and it can apply worldly. I think Christian integrity is, it's a great number of things, really, which is obviously what we're going to dive into today.
Welcome, everyone, to podcast number 264, Renew Your Mind. With us today, we have Senior Pastor Kevin Harbin. We have our Youth and Family Director, also our Praise Band Leader, Jordan Kettlewell, and myself, Dana Hall, as the moderator. Today, we are going to talk about the word integrity. A lot of us think integrity is what you would do when no one is looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, what do you...
So I think that's a phrase I've heard my whole life. And in a worldly sense, it applies. Integrity is what you do when nobody's around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when nobody's around and you're going to get away with it, you could do all kinds of stuff. So the essence of that is, are you the same person by yourself as you are around other people, or when nobody's watching, will you try to get away with something?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thought. It's a good roundabout definition of personal integrity, and it can apply worldly. I think Christian integrity is, it's a great number of things, really, which is obviously what we're going to dive into today, but can be different. And I've thought about that in a much different lens over the years. As a kid, before I was even a Christian, before I accepted Christ, I knew this about integrity. Like that's being upright, being honest, being, not getting away with things when you're behind the curtain. But as a Christian, actually the perspective changes, because it's not about what you do when no one's looking. It's about knowing that whatever you do, God's always looking.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do, wherever you are, God's always watching. Right? He's always with you. So it almost negates that as a Christian, because there is not a time
right
where no one's looking, because he is. So it's living your life in accordance with knowing that God is with you, that God is watching, that to make a long story short, that you're going to be accountable for all of your actions. And that's a sobering thought.
Well, sure it is. And, I admire you for even wanting to bring up the word integrity, as a conversation piece, because inevitably when we think about what do I do when nobody's watching? Well, I'd love to say that everything is good. But I also know that there are times when I fall short. And of course, I don't want to have to admit that. The difference would be integrity says, when I do fall short, I'm willing to admit it.
Yeah.
As opposed to integrity meaning, I can do whatever I want and get away with it. But so integrity itself is just a very valuable conversation, not one that maybe everybody wants to enter into because of the kind of self-inspection that you put yourself through. Are my private actions what the public perceives of me?
Right.
And in reality, of course, we open our newspapers every single day. And one of the definitions for integrity deals with incorruptible, that a person of integrity is incorruptible. And yet, what do we hear about when it comes to certain public places of service? The corruption. And so what we're talking about is people who obviously lacked integrity, maybe not in their whole life, but at least in a moment of time. And now what happened is everybody got surprised. The public perception of who they were just got radically changed because of a private action that now became public. And so I love the thought of yes, God is always watching, but it takes a mature person to always remember that, because we're in the Christmas season. And in Christmas, all we think about is Santa Claus, and he sees me and he sees me. But we don't always think about every single day that there's an awareness that God is looking at me. And that's okay, because he's not looking to catch me do things wrong. He's looking to catch me also do things right.
Yeah, and to grow us to that point.
Sure.
Yeah. And I would say it's also in those moments where no one's watching but God, or you're alone, you're alone with him. It's those moments where he'll start to tweak those things. It's those quiet moments where you go, and you start self-reflecting on things, and the Holy Spirit starts working on you. That can happen in a large setting. That can happen in a group. That can happen in public. Sometimes if it happens publicly, it forces you into it.
Sure.
But for me, a lot of times it's been in those quiet moments where I am by myself, where God's going, I think you can work on this. I think there's this part of your life that we could tune up just a tad. And I'm thankful for those. But it's a tough topic to bring up and to even tackle, because there's you can go one of two ways. Like we're talking about self-reflection and your own integrity, or depending on how we are presenting this, it could sound like we're just attacking other people and their integrity. So it's a deep topic, but it's one that I think deserves a lot of discussion, because frankly, are any of us really the same exact person that everybody perceives us to be? Are you the same at home when you're having a conversation with Ellen?
Yeah.
Do you talk to her as though you're giving a sermon? Is it the same as Sunday morning? No, of course not.
No,
right?
But I am grateful. So I think I learned more about integrity when, before Jesus, I was a salesman who might have lacked integrity, but it served me. And again, it was happening privately. Nobody knew that I wasn't being honest or whatever. And so my lack of integrity was okay because nobody knew, and it served me. When I became a Christian, now this awareness of who I am and how I conduct myself matters. Because as a follower of Jesus, I do want to be known the same way in different communities and in different places. And so when my wife oftentimes gets asked the question, when we're at a new church, so tell us more about Kevin, not the pastor, but the person. And she'll say, well, that's the thing. I admire, and this is not trying to sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but she has said this so many different times that it's almost become my speech. She goes, the thing that she values about her husband, me, is that he is a person of integrity, and he is the same person behind the doors at the house as he is in the doors of the church and in the community and everywhere else. And when you are a pastor that moves around and you've lived in all these different communities, and because we live in a big world that sometimes is made small, I can't go anywhere in Michigan without people knowing sometimes who I am. And, you have your own ways of telling that story. But to know that they all know me the same way, that if all the churches I served were in the same room and they talked about me, they would talk about me the same way. And that is that's a nice conscience to have when you put your head on your pillow at night. So yeah, integrity, has to deal with just, how we're whole and how we're not divided in different ways. For instance, do I behave a certain way in the home? Do I behave a certain way in the community? Do I behave a different way in the church? Do I behave a way when I'm on my college or high school reunion? Those kinds of things. Or am I whole, undivided? And as followers of Jesus, we're to be, the integrity within us speaks about the wholeness within us. Like when we think about Job, he was an upright and blameless man. Now that's a great definition of integrity, upright and blameless. Not that he wasn't without faults, he was, but I have a feeling that if he had a fault, he was blameless in that he admitted his shortcomings when they came up. And he also didn't say, well, that's just the way I am. take me or leave it. No, he was, all the Christians, should desire to recognize those places where we're not whole and fill the gaps.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thought, and where I was hoping we would go with this today is, we think about integrity as that, what you do behind closed doors. Are you the same person? Which really actually speaks more to hypocrisy or not hypocrisy. Integrity, the word itself, implies wholeness. If something's integrated, then all the parts are integrated. If you think about a building, if it's got structural integrity, it stands because all the parts are integrated together perfectly. If there's a lacking in structural integrity, it falls apart. Well, that's no different than us as people. And, I even made the distinction of like worldly integrity versus Christian integrity at the beginning, but that also actually doesn't even work, because if you think about it,
well, go back up and tell us the difference between worldly integrity and Christian integrity.
Where I was talking about, the idea that integrity is who you are when no one's looking, and that's kind of a common worldly saying. It's not inherently Christian in and of itself, but that my thoughts were that on the Christian and those of us who know Christ, integrity is who you are, knowing that God is always looking. Right? You're accountable. But when we're talking about integrity as wholeness, about all of our parts being integrated, now I'm gonna say something that could get me into hot water. I don't think you can actually be a fully integrated human and not be a Christian. Now that sounds like I'm saying that anybody out there that's not Christian and is listening, that you don't have integrity, which is not what I'm saying. You can be a person of strong moral character and not know Christ. Like that exists. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. But we were created, right? We were created in the image of God. We're created for a purpose. And without God, without Christ, without the Holy Spirit in us, our mind, body, soul, spirit, all of our parts aren't integrated. So they're not working together. So as far as our integrity, we're not actually being who we are supposed to be without that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I am trying to, decipher through all of that. But I loved how you said, mind, body, soul, because as fallen human beings, we're not whole.
Right.
Our mind takes us places we don't wish. Our bodies take us places we shouldn't be. And but yet we're to love God with all of our heart, all of our mind, and all of our soul. And when we're fully devoted to Him, to love Him with all of those things, then He makes us whole. And we never have to worry too much about our private actions, because as long as we keep our focus on loving God with all, then He will, He will make us whole. Right. And so therefore, when we're in places where we're starting to gossip, a Christian follower, integrity says, that's a no-no. We don't do that. And so it doesn't mean that we can't do it, because it comes quite easily or easy. But in those moments, our love for God starts to call us to say, oh, wait a minute, we're drifting into a conversation that we shouldn't be going. Or when we take somebody off to the side for that private conversation. Hey, did you know? Or it's a conversation in the shadows.
This was told to me in confidence, but I know that I can trust you with it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Not that lacks some integrity in terms of that. So, integrity is a hard conversation to have.
It is. And especially when it's so easy to have that conversation where it starts off with a concern for somebody and you want to talk about it with somebody, but then you're gossiping. So, there's a fine line between gossiping and then talking through something with someone to try to, repair something that's broken, I guess. That probably didn't make sense.
Well,
but...
and the gossip for prayer game, right? I'm just going to call that up for what it is. Some people are genuine about it. They want to know all of your information because they care about you and they want to pray for you.
Yeah.
And when you say that you've got something going on, say, well, can you tell me more so I can pray in detail? And they mean that. And that's as far as it goes. But let's face it, we all know this. That is the gossip trick in churches. Is I just want to know how to pray for you, and then they share it with everybody because they know that you'll want the prayer. That's a really beautiful package to put gossip into.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And of course, this is just one example.
Sure.
We can move on to anything and everything that's called sin.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And realize it. And yet, hopefully, what it does in the midst of all of it is call us back to, do I want to be a person of integrity? And why do I want to be a person of integrity? Because again, our integrity has to have a source, and our source is found in God. And if we traveled and we looked at the life of Jesus and the integrity that he showed, through all of the difficult situations, and one would have to just read the New Testament, at least the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, to see that everything that Jesus went through, and the integrity that he held, that he was the same person before the Sanhedrin, he was the same person before Pontius Pilate, he was the same person on a cross before people who crucified him, he was the same person as he was when he touched a woman or spoke to a woman at the well or touched a leper, etc. Jesus gives us a great example and our model that a life of integrity is possible. And because he said, greater things we will do, we can do that also. But we have to watch over one another in love, which also means, ouch. If you catch me, I'll use it in that example. Jordan, you catch me in a moment where perhaps what I try to portray to people just got evidence differently. Boy, you're supposed to love me enough to be able to approach me with truth and a whole lot of grace, by the way. Don't give me just truth, and don't give me grace. Now, everybody makes mistakes. It's okay. No, we need truth and grace where we love each other enough. Well, the way I like to always say it, God loves us where we're at, but he loves us too much to leave us there. Yeah. We need to learn to love each other where we're at, but love each other too much to leave us there. And when we entertain the conversation of the church, of course, that complicates it. It's a necessary conversation. But, as you said something, Jordan, about building with integrity, the structure. Well, the church, it can stand. It's made of cement, brick, but the church is really only still but the people. Yeah. And we're the sum of the people. Yeah. And so my integrity matters to the church, but Dana, yours does too. And so does yours, Jordan, and all the other hundreds that attend our church. Without integrity, we will fall because we won't be whole. And when you're not whole, you will fall. You will fall.
Yeah.
Sure.
Fall apart.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. The integrity at the individual level affects the integrity of the whole body.
Yes.
And piece by piece, it can start to fall. And now you mentioned something in there too that with the life of Jesus that I think also is really important in the life of a Christian, in the life of the church, but also just facing off against the world, facing off against a secular world, a culture that is not inherently based on Christian values. Is part of that Christian integrity is standing for the truth and grace, truth and love. The Christian community has been very good about the grace and love part for a lot of years, and then there's been other seasons where it's been great about the truth part.
Yeah, but balancing those two together.
Balancing those two is really hard.
Yeah,
grace is easier. Grace is the easier conversation. Love is the easier conversation. I understand why you did what you did. I mean, everybody's done that. It's okay. Let's move on. Yeah. Truth is the hard one, I think, for a lot of people, because more often than not, there's a cost. And to me, another crucial part of Christian integrity is standing for the truth, standing firm in the truth when there's a cost. When there isn't a cost, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
On Sunday morning, going and standing for Christian truth in church, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody agrees with you. But there's other moments where there's a cost and where it's hard. Again, Christ is the perfect example for all things. When he was being tempted by Satan, there was a cost. He could have produced his own food, miraculously produced it. He didn't, because that's not what he was there for. The cost was he was hungry. He was fasting. He was hungry. And then to an even greater extent at the cross. Could Jesus have gotten himself out of that? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. He could have talked his way out of it before it even went to the cross.
Called down a legion of angels.
He could have called down a legion of angels and prevented it from happening or saving him from the cross. It could have done any great number of things, but he didn't, and the cost was ultimately high.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ultimately high.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many martyrs that have come after him that the cost is ultimately high.
This podcast is reminding me of what it's like to write a sermon, because nobody knows how much research, struggle goes into the study before the sermon is given.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know how much paper got left on the floor. Even though they might say, this one was a little longer than some of the others, they don't know how long it could have been. And all of it that got thrown away, if you will, was good stuff. And here we are in a podcast talking about integrity. When is this conversation really going to be over? It won't be.
It won't be, yeah.
But the encouragement I think I'm gaining from what we're talking about is for anybody who's listening. Number one, are you concerned about your own integrity? Do your private actions match with the persona that you give to the public?
Yeah.
And do you even have a concept of the importance of integrity and what it is that God is counting on us for in living our lives whole, in private or in public, and the hard work, to build a structure with integrity costs more than a cheap building. But we read all the time in the stories of the newspapers or news about buildings that collapse. And so we don't want our lives to collapse, so we need to build them with integrity. We don't want our churches to collapse, so we need to build it with integrity. And who's the source of all of this? Well, somewhere in the way, this is where I love the internet. Go ahead, Google integrity with God, integrity with Jesus, integrity in the church, integrity in my life. And you'll have your own personal podcast of a conversation between you and God, and it won't end. And it's going to be all good. You won't want it to end. Yeah,
I'm ending it right there.
I thought I was giving you a
awesome.
lot to hit a home run with.
Exactly. That was
so good.
Perfectly.
Thank you. That's a great discussion. Thank you, everyone, for listening. It's a tough subject, so necessary. Well said. We come to you from the Gaylord Methodist Church. We have 2 services on Sunday. We have a 9 a.m. traditional and a 10:45 contemporary. We would love to have you join us. If you can't, if you're not physically able, you can view us on YouTube or Facebook. If you have any other questions, you can call the office or Google us. The number is 989-732-5380. We're located at 215 South Center Street in Gaylord, Michigan. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.